Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your patience. My name is John Clifford, and I've been responsible, I suppose, for organising and facilitating this morning's session on the topic of Supercharge SAP AI, connecting and harmonizing your business data for smarter HR insights. Just before we get underway, I'd just like to do a little bit of housekeeping. This morning's session will be recorded. We're more than happy to share the recording with any of you who would like a copy of it. And also, I suppose, just to let you know, I suppose, for those of you who may have attended these sessions in the past, we try to make these as engaging and as interactive as possible. We will facilitate a questions and answering session at the end of this morning's session. So if you do have any questions, you'll notice on the panel there is a Q&A tab. And again, I'd encourage anyone who has questions as we go along to just submit them, and we'll get around to answering as many of those as possible. Again, listen, thank you to everyone for joining us this morning. This really is a global event. If I go on to the next slide, and just to give those of you a little quick introduction into our speakers this morning. Delighted to be joined by two of my colleagues, firstly, but I suppose most importantly, delighted to be joined by David. David is Head of Business AI for the Nordics and Baltics. And just before we get underway, I might ask the speakers just to give you a quick overview and introduction into who they are. Good morning, David. How are you? I'll start with you, please.
I'm good, thank you. How are you this morning?
Great, thanks. Great.
Very good to meet you all. I'm very honoured to be invited to be on this call. I am David Pontoppidan, and as mentioned, I lead our Business AI portfolio for SAP across the Nordics and Baltics. It's a role that I've now been in for about a year, covering the 8 geographies that we have. And then I also serve as part of our EMEA AI leadership in SAP.
Thank you, David. Good morning, Nikolai. Over to you, please.
Morning, John. Thank you, and great to see so many people on the call this morning. My name is Nikolai. I head up our Nordic business unit from a Gavdi point of view, and very delighted to team up with both David from SAP and my colleague Barbara.
Thanks, Nikolai. Morning, Barbara.
Hello, everyone. As Nikolai said, I'm based in the UK. I'm just looking after the UK business unit for Gavdi and looking forward to this webinar.
Thanks, Barbara. So I'm just going to quickly run through the agenda, just to give people an overview of what we plan on covering. So we've gone through the introductions. I'll talk a little bit about Gavdi Group. I won't keep people long, just to give you an outline of those who of you aren't familiar about our service offering and so forth. Then I'm going to pass it over to David. David's going to talk, give a really good overview, I suppose, around everything in regards to SAP Data Cloud. Also talk about delivering SAP data products across all business processes. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit, I suppose, about how and what the Gavdi offering looks like and how we enable our customers in regards to everything AI. As mentioned, I'll also cover off it just a little bit at the end. As I said, we do try to make these as engaging as interactive. So any questions you have, please feel free to submit them. So just moving on quickly for those who aren't familiar about who we are as an organization. Employee organization with a very, very strong, I suppose, Nordic Scandinavian heritage. We've recently just celebrated our 25th anniversary and have a strong pedigree, I suppose, with everything in regards to SAP HR specifically, but also have an extensive offering as well around everything that complements that, and AI being a significant part of that. We have offices in 8 countries, I think, 11 offices in 9 countries, but really do service, I suppose, customers on a global perspective, and are, I suppose, recognized as the go-to partner for everything for SAP within the Nordics and Baltics. If you're looking to find out a little bit more about us, please feel free to visit us on the website www.gavdi.com. And on that note, I'll hand it over to David. And looking forward to this, David. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Let me just share my screen and we'll get into it. So thank you very much, and been very much looking forward to speaking this morning about everything that's happening when it comes to Business AI, Business Data Cloud, and AI and data in a broader perspective within SAP. So with that, let's get started with one of the biggest conundrums when it comes to AI and working with AI and enterprise software, which is that when you're building software, it's normally hard to get software to do, well, anything really. But the funny thing about AI is often harder to get it not to do something because it creates by default. And that is one of the biggest conundrums that we face when we try to succeed with AI at the enterprise scale within enterprise software, because it is a shift in mindset. We used to, within software, we used to normally listing every single if. So classic code is like a Swiss watch. You have precision gears that move only where we mill them. If you break a line, you patch a line. Cause and effect, compile and control. But in AI, we are confronted with an unending else. Language is simply mutating faster than we can engrave the rules. A single prompt is like a puff of wind across a field of dandelions. You have one breath and 1,000 unseen trajectories, which are lost in the wind. So else now includes every image, every sentence, every action that the model could emit anywhere in its training distribution. And that means that we are no longer debugging lines of code, we are starting to debug distributions. Now, you can't catch all of these seeds once they're airborne, which means you have to learn how to shape the breeze itself. And we have to try to do that. And if there are any devs on the call, you'll notice I left an empty try block down in the corner, because we don't know what it is we'll have to catch next. And that stochastic humility begins by learning how to catch the wind. Now, stochastic discipline is stochastic humility. It is a discipline, and it starts with how we treat our raw material. So we start off first with the data. We want to make sure that when we're talking data, we keep everything responsible and everything contextual, because truth without context is just trivia. And then next you have the actual artificial intelligence, because the models are ingesting contextual truths. The models are staying relevant for the enterprise. You don't have any fairy tale numbers that are slipping into the board report, or no hallucinated suppliers suddenly appearing within the system. And that all has to do with also how the AI is then embedded into the process layer, because we automate, but we're not automating blindly. We need to make sure that we have the guardrails and the audit trails in place to make every outcome reliable and every exception explainable. So what happens is that better processes then start to create better data. And that better data creates sharper models, which leads to tighter automation into your process landscape. And that compounding loop, that virtuous circle, that's SAP's Business AI strategy on a single page. It's what we think of as our advantage, where you have the business truth at the core and the trusted intelligence at the edge. If you learn how to catch the wind this way, you can steer the breeze, so to speak, and let the loop do the heavy lifting for you. So I always like to ask this question whenever I'm presenting, whether the audience has an opportunity to answer or not, is what is AI to you? And I've asked this question about 50 or 60 different times over the last 3 months as I've been giving presentations, and anything from large conferences to boardrooms full of executives for some of our customers. And you get a multitude of different responses. We're always talking about AI, and everybody agrees that AI stands for artificial intelligence. But what does it actually mean? What does it actually stand for? You get a variety of responses, and there is quite a bit of way from smart automation to my new BFF, or from a new way of working to simply being a problem solver or a tool. Now, I'm showing you this because there's so many ways of thinking about a piece of terminology that ideally we should all agree on, and we all want to talk about it and hear about it. But there are many different expectations of what it will actually deliver and what the semantic meaning and context of that word actually is. And that is a great example of how data resides and works within enterprises today, and how meaning of data is brought to mind in business processes. So in SAP, our goal is to have a business world where every piece of data speaks the same language and works together. So we get a single trusted data foundation that's able to connect everything from finance spreadsheets to supply chain logs into one harmonized cloud. And right now, every single team in your organization is going to have their own view of reality, their own little jar of color, so to speak. And you can't paint a whole scene with just one jar of color. So we need to unify all of that data, and that includes the data that's sitting in systems that SAP built and SAP sold, but also sitting in systems that we didn't build and we didn't sell, but our competitors did. And once you can have all of that data included in a data fabric, then you can start to federate it. And that data fabric then pulls it onto a common palette, which is what we call the Business Data Cloud. Now, suddenly, inventory means inventory in supply chain as well as in finance. That context is giving each term a business meaning, and that common palette is our semantic layer. So what we've done together with Databricks is that we've OEM'd in the Unity catalog to the SAP Business Data Cloud, so that we're able to label every single tint and shade, so that revenue always means revenue, so that demand always means demand, and you can mix them across systems, across processes, without guessing and with getting the same outcome. So if we can standardize these different pigments across SAP and non-SAP systems, then we can also start to package them into what are called data products. And those data products, I would like you to think of them as small version controlled containers of data plus business logic. So they are these small containers that can be deployed anywhere by any single person, any single team, or any single AI agent. And this is how we're preparing for what we call the neuro-symbolic age of AI that organizations will need to embrace, where you are combining neural networks of artificial intelligence with the symbolic layer of how data relates to one another and interacts with one another. And that's what you're seeing here between the blue and the purple layers, what says SAP Knowledge Graph. That's the canvas where we pour all these colors onto. The semantic bridge saying, all right, we agree that we have all these different objects in our data universe, and we agree that they have the same meaning. But how do they actually relate to one another? So supplier A is selling product B, which is stored in warehouse C, which is shipped to location D, right? Supplier and warehouse and location and product. These are the nodes of your network. But stored, sell, shipped, those are the edges of the nodes that define how they relate to one another. What is the business logic that you want to impose on top of your business semantics? And how those relationships mapped out, that is defined in the knowledge graph. And we do that for you. And then we layer this agentic AI on top. And think about the impact of AI here when you have these different puzzle pieces in place. Think about the impact of AI. It is revolutionary, and that's why we call it dual, because we are turning the static data of your enterprise into a kinetic advantage. So how does all of that relate to one another? Well, it relates to one another this way, that you have both embedded AI capabilities and the possibility to build custom AI on top. And then you have pre-made and custom agents that work across your business landscape, across your silos, across your systems to drive optimized outcomes. And that all happens with a strong ecosystem of partners, from any of the leading large language model providers to the other providers in the AI ecosystem that are providing meaning and truth to set data. But it's all packaged into the data model and process layer that SAP is building around this value proposition in the Business Data Cloud with built-in security and compliance. So this is how you empower your enterprise. And right now, if you look at how that's unfolding for the SAP enterprise, we are going to have more than 400 use cases by the end of this year that are pre-embedded into your business processes, which means if you're running any of our cloud solutions, whether it is in SuccessFactors or any of the other line of business solutions or in Cloud ERP, and you can start to unpack these and use them immediately. And then there's a bi-directional integration with Microsoft Copilot as well. It allows your organization, your people, to start working intelligently with automation at scale. And what does that look like? Well, at the very basic level, the table stakes of what this looks like is what you see here, where we are creating a store manager in Geneva, and we want to create that position. We want to mirror it against the position that Ben holds, but he's in Chicago. So I want to change what that looks like. And I want to change the location, which is what I'm doing here. And after I change the location, sorry, I've got just got to play one more. After I change the location, I say I have no other changes other than to pick the start date, and I'm able to submit the start date and seek approval from my manager for creating a set position, and the position request has now been fulfilled. So this is the entryway of how you start to work with Business AI. But we can go even further, and in this particular case, we are at SAP Start, which is the entry point for our cloud applications, and we're activating Joule, and we're looking into our different purchase orders, and we're asking the question, what are the key rules for compliance when it comes to purchasing per company policy? This is business specific logic, and it needs to be grounded in business specific rules. And that's exactly what's happened here. And what you see is you get the business specific rules provided to you, and you get the references for what is the global procurement policy and what are the local rules in place as well. You can imagine for HCM, for HR, for example, this could be anything related to benefits or to pay or other areas where you're going to have both global policies in place and local variations tailored to labor market regulations and local agreements in your company. So this is how you then start to work with AI, not just as an interaction engine, but also as a contextual piece of information that is relevant to your business logic. Now, for HCM specifically, about 50% of all tickets that are raised within the area of HR in general have to do with pay, and more precisely, why my pay is the way that it is. And you see here that I'm asking a question to Joule to understand why are my deductions so high on my latest salary. And you will notice it has to do with an increase in gross pay due to a bonus I received in June. But I don't know why I'm paying national insurance deduction. If any people from the UK here, this is a thing that's specific to the UK, that you have to pay this towards your state pension, and you then get an example of what that looks like. And you also have the opportunity in the end to compare your pay slips this month to previous months. So you're not only looking into the context of your business rules, you're looking into the context of my individual truth as an employee within this enterprise, governed by the business rules and logic in place. Just one last example I wanted to show you here. If you or anyone you know have ever done month-end financial closing with SAP, I feel you. I truly do, because it is a tedious process and it can have a lot of unintended consequences if you have tables that don't match up, which is what you see here. That you have tables that don't match up, and there's an issue in then completing said month-end closing. But you also have an AI-provided error resolution where you immediately get remediation of what's actually going on and is hyper-contextual to the financial data in place, where you can see here it says that in the cost center field, you need to go in and enter 0 MB1/2 and then select the appropriate controlling area, if you look at point number 4 here. So again, this is an example of how to drive hyper-contextual automation at scale for your enterprise, in this case within the area of finance. All right. Sometimes when you're working with financial data or any other kind of data, you want to compile it into reports. Now, for finance specifically, that typically starts with the 3 basic financial statements, so your P&L, your balance sheet, and your statement of cash flows. And in this case, I'm comparing my budget against my actuals, and I'm trying to understand on my P&L why things came out the way that they did. And these are individual notes that have been provided by the controllers, the management accountants of your enterprise, and they are always contextual, always specific, and there are always many of them. So I'm asking Jewel in this particular example to summarize all of these internal comments to my P&L, and I get the answer that the lower income has to do with higher costs for the budget, and those higher costs are mainly driven by high inflation expectations and increased travel, which is a great insight. But I also want to model that insight and understand what would happen if I was able to cut costs by 2%, for example, in my P&L. And you'll notice on the left-hand side, everything just changed now in the revised budget and the revised actuals versus the 2024 budget, and provided me with a new modeled scenario, again, taking the contextual truth of my business data into account. No pun intended. So how is all of this happening? How is all of this coming to life? Well, as I mentioned, it has to do with the SAP Knowledge Graph. And SAP is the only enterprise software company in the world that is able and delivering a knowledge graph engine that sits across all line of business solutions and is able to deliver this symbolic layer and this business rule logic on top of your semantic unified truth across systems and data, and allows you to query said knowledge graph in anything from SQL to Sparkle to natural language. And in this case, I'm asking the knowledge graph, this is not a demo, it's just a slide, but I'm asking the knowledge graph, how do I check if the goods movement is posted for a sales order? And I get a reply in a natural language saying I need to refer specifically to a table called MatDoc, and that contains the material documents, and I need to look at the foreign key relationship with the sales order table VBAC. So again, super contextual stuff. How are we accomplishing this? Well, we're drawing on 2 different elements of data, or 2 different sources of truth. One is the S/4HANA content, where we've trained this knowledge graph on almost 500,000 ABAP tables and more than 80,000 CDS views and 7.5 million fields. And this is also the area where we're developing our own SAP foundational model to further enrich that knowledge graph. And that's something you're going to be hearing more about likely later in the year. We've been talking about that since last year, that it's something we have in development. But on top of that part of the knowledge graph, we have the Business Data Cloud as well, as you see. And what we're able to deliver here is actually a way to engineer the hallucination out of large language models. And large language models are always going to have some level of hallucination involved in them. We know that. We've known that since the halting problem was defined by Turing back in the 1930s, that no perfect piece of software or system will ever exist. So no perfect LLM will ever exist that doesn't hallucinate, which means it's an engineering task to then breed that hallucination out of it through subsequent innovations. And that's exactly what we're able to do here with 0% hallucination and increased recall compared to using the large language model on its own. Okay, so how do all of these pieces fit together? Well, they fit together as shown here, where you can build dual skills and build custom AI agents for specific business needs, or you can leverage anything that is already embedded. And that happens with the pre-made embedded dual agents and capabilities, or in SAP build on the business technology platform. And that's supported by the Business Data Cloud and by the knowledge graph, which again is then sitting on top of said SAP applications and non-SAP applications, where we enforce a unified semantic meaning across through the lakehouse architecture and delta sharing protocols of SAP Databricks. And all of that allows us to create the data products that we unfold, that we unpackage, that come to life in these contextual responses that you see. So we've just had Sapphire in Orlando and Madrid. If you weren't able to join, there are a lot of innovations to keep up with and a lot of things that happen. I just wanted to call out a few of them. Number one is that we're starting to work with Joule everywhere. So we are combining Joule on your internal data, which is happening in your closed tenant securely in your environment, with Perplexity AI and the ability to augment that data with live data from the internet, data that travels from the internet towards your private tenant, that contextual response in a secure way, but augments the meaning and result and the timeliness and accuracy of the output that you're getting. That is revolutionary, as is the agent-to-agent protocol that we are working together with Google on to establish a single way of working across different agents. That's number one thing I wanted to call out to you. Number two are the number of agents that we are launching that are already live or that are coming at the end of this year. More than 35 agents at the end of this year, close to 40 that are going to be working across your different lines of business and business areas and working together in multi-agentic orchestration. All of that is feeding into what we call the AI operating system of SAP, this OS for how AI works across your enterprise. We want to bundle all of that into one single place where you can control how AI is unfolding in your enterprise, and you have very specific understanding of how your data is working. And all of those tools and all of that meaning and all of that control sits at one single hub. So then we start to move from what we saw before to what's called the AI first enterprise, where we've got more than 30 Joule agents that are live now and coming live very soon. And we have those agents working with your business processes, with your users, across with one another, and querying the very embedded AI capabilities that I just showed that you as a human being can also query. They start to work together, which means that the human can be lifted up towards being a controller in the loop rather than being the manual step in the AI automation that actually needs to carry out every single automated step in order to fulfill a completion. That is the true agenticness of multi-agent orchestration in an enterprise. And for HCM specifically, this cuts across a number of different areas that you'll be used to working with. So our vision is to move towards this collaborative system of agents. And there's one example here of recruiting agent Carla in HCM, which is trying to finalize a software engineering description, and it's automating it for the user, and it's posting it with permission from the user to all of the relevant portals, and notifying the user when any candidates are shortlisted based on predefined rules and responses. For example, that you must have a certain certification within a programming language in order to apply, or you need at least 5 years of experience, and so forth. This is an example of how that Joule agent comes to life. Now, what does that mean for business AI across the employee journey? It means that anywhere from attracting and acquiring through identifying and growing, educating and developing, paying for performance, and exiting of the employee from hire to retire, there are AI capabilities and AI agents embedded to help support that process and to augment the quality of that process from my very first application to the company towards my last day, how I interact with AI. So I wanted to show you a really cool example of what this looks like. This is an example from ServiceNow. So we're not in an SAP system, right? And as I said, Joule is being embedded everywhere. So in this case, let me just pause it. We've detected a quality issue with a batch of material from PowerCell Solutions, and we need immediate action to procure replacement from another supplier. This is a ticket raised by an engineer on the ground in ServiceNow. And Because I'm able to go and tap into Joule anywhere, including in ServiceNow, I do that just now, and I look at what is the supply chain impact here, according to Joule, from this disruption. And we understand that the material is going to run out in 5 days, and that means 30 orders are going to be delivered, and we have no backup supplier. What caused that failed inspection? Now, Joule is able to answer that question. Well, there was 77 out of a total 100 battery cells that failed a certain characteristic, which is unacceptable. So we need to find an alternate supplier. And immediately, we know that there were 3 suppliers that also bid on that RFQ back in the day, and Enertech is being suggested to us as the most relevant supplier to go with because of the urgency and the short amount of time they would need. Now, they provided a price of $1.90 in order to sell this to us. But I want to check my emails to see if they had offered a lower price before. So now we get to the agent-to-agent framework, where suddenly Joule, we're sitting in ServiceNow, Joule is now querying Gemini, which is going into my Gmail because we're running Gmail in this example. And Gemini is then finding the email from Enertech where they actually had promised a cost per unit of $1.05. And that's the email right there that's been found for us. So with that in place, I want to issue a new RFP to Enertech Solutions, noting the discrepancy in what their current bid was when they were pre-selected and what they'd actually promised a month back. And it's now been sent to Enertech. I mean, we're, 3 minutes, 2 minutes into this thing. You'll notice down here it says RFP agent working is issued to Enertech, and we're waiting for a response. So while we're waiting for that response, we go back to ServiceNow, and we tell ServiceNow that we want to create, we want an action here. In Joule, we want to make sure that we create a new action, and that action has to do with the urgency of the ticket. So if anything happens to this ticket, I want an alert. I want to display the summary, the ticket number, and the reporter name, and I want that to happen immediately if there's urgent in any of the keywords, and display that within Joule so that I'm notified there. And that urgent ticket alert is now in place. And while this is all going on, you'll notice it's down there right now. That's the one urgent ticket alert that we have. While this is all going on, I'm now getting a notification telling me, guess what? There's an update for this RFP, and the update, let's see what it says. Well, fortunately, Sarah Collins from Enertech has responded, and they can deliver in 2 weeks for the agreed cost per unit. And now I'm able to resolve the urgent request that was raised to me in a non-SAP system using Joule, having the same semantic meaning cut across, having the business rules and business logic of my enterprise imposed upon the automation that I'm driving, and having all of this carried out with AI on the back end, including in all of the systems and all the processes that need to be carried through in order for this RFP to be issued, completed, and the sales order to be created, and the fulfillment made. And there's a human in the loop who's validating every step, but not actually carrying out those steps for the enterprise, and the ticket can now be updated and completed. So that's an example of the revolution of what we're seeing here. So with that in mind, where does that leave us for the AI first enterprise? Well, first of all, AI is the strategic priority for your company right now. And if you're advising companies, it is the strategic priority for your clients and customers. And you want to make sure when you're doing that, when you are addressing that strategic priority, that you have AI deployed across the enterprise as part of the foundation. You have it embedded in all business decisions. You're able to drive efficiency and faster time to market through scale. And you have AI not as a bolt-on, but as a compounding capability that's driving continuous advantage. Gives you 5 questions you need to ask yourself or your clients. Number 1 is, are you seeing AI as a technology risk or as a competitive risk that you need to embrace? Number 2, is this a one-time upgrade for you where, great, we've got AI, now we can move on to something else? Or is this an evolving intelligence engine that you need to invest in? Thirdly, are you designing your business just for modernizing old processes, or are you actually designing it for intelligence of the future? Fourth, are you enabling AI to drive revenue growth and efficiency and risk reduction at scale through the way that you are carrying data and semantics and neurosymbolic meaning across the enterprise? Is that part of the equation solution for you? And then finally, the last thing to consider, are you treating data as short-term input or as a long-term asset for AI-driven advantage? Those are the 5 questions that you need to ask yourself or ask your clients and come up with a great answer that we from SAP are more than happy to help provide to you in order to how to get to an AI-first enterprise and intelligent automation for the future. With that, thank you very much for your time, and thank you so much for your interest, and happy to take any questions and engage in future dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you, David. That was truly impressive of what the future will look like. And one thing to remember is, in fact, this is not in 5 years or on the roadmap for at least 2-3 years down the road. This is in fact available in your instances as a customer across your enterprise. So thank you for that, David. Really interesting, and emphasizes all of the opportunities with AI. And you might sit there and wonder, how do we get started? Which is the element where we, Gavdi, as a trusted advisor, can definitely help you. And I'll just in fact comment on the ServiceNow part. I also see there's a question there. So in case you don't know us, we obviously are an SAP partner primarily. But we in fact also work with ServiceNow and the architecture and HR service delivery between ServiceNow, HR, payroll, document management, etc., both from a process point of view and technically. And as we can see with Joule, we can orchestrate that across the different applications. So feel free to reach out if you need help on that topic as well. So how to get started with a strategic enablement of Joule or AI in your enterprise? So AI is not just a buzzword anymore, and we in fact have customers out there who have blocked for AI tools on their network, which we believe is not the right way to go. We would like to enable you and do a strategic enablement and create a direction for you around your organization and make sure you move forward with the possibilities of AI. So what we will do is not only the technical readiness, but in fact start by defining what does AI success look like in your specific organization. That could be in an HR context and be activities such as identifying tangible value areas, for instance, automation of repetitive tasks. It could be you get 300 tickets per month on payroll related questions or policies. Well, let's define that as a success area where we can then measure the impact of AI, and we can in fact implement tangible AI tools such as document grounding or Joule to reduce the amount of tickets raised to payroll. So that's one of the areas for value drivers and objectives of moving forward with AI. It could also be generative AI in a recruiting context, in a compensation context, or whatever the use cases and value drivers your organization see. Based on that, we will go into enablement workshops with you and your key stakeholders to align business requirements and take these value drivers and objectives into an actual implementation. Not only the technical element, but in fact start to create an implementation plan of rolling out AI across your organization. That begins with the organizational adoption. So we believe anyone, or at least a lot of people, have heard about ChatGPT. A lot of people have tried working with ChatGPT or Perplexity or Mistral or whatever tool is out there, but how do you actually work with AI in a focused and value-creating context? So we'll start to roll out the organizational adoption, including training and change management to different user groups, but also to measure the impact of these AI value drivers and objectives defined in the first place. Obviously, the technical setup is there as well as the P2P platform, so that is all aligned. Then we'll go into the adoption roadmap with change management and communication, potentially process redesign and automation. Again, taking the example of document grounding and reducing the amount of tickets raised to payroll. That's a tangible process redesign we can do and guide users into using AI instead of contacting HR or payroll. Obviously, we'll also support the governance and compliance around this, not only from a legal point of view, but also from an ethical point of view, and make sure you're onboarded safely in a responsible way with AI in your instance. We'll roll out the user enablement. So great AI is there, but we also need to train the users and make sure they know how to go to Joule. They know how they can prompt which use cases they can use, etc., and make sure to implement and roll out the training as well. So really what we want to help you with is to get started on your AI journey in your organization. We have this enablement, which we will roll out, and typically we can also do it with SAP, some of the early AI workshops we have done before, to help you onboard key stakeholders and get started on the AI journey. This is really interesting for us, and a piece of technology that is only growing every day, and believe we will see AI transform the full, in an HR context, the full HR operating model, away from maybe the shared service centers. The business partners will also be involved. So the technology is there, and we'll like to help you implement and create those value drivers and harvest the benefits of AI in your organization. So reach out if this is of interest, and we'll drop by and we'll initiate the conversation, and we might also bring our friends from SAP along for some of the discovery workshops. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Nikolai. I think if we just maybe start to look at wrapping up with the key takeaways, I'll just hand it over to you, Barbara, maybe from your perspective in working with AI and working with our customers, and then I might pass it over to David if that was okay.
Yeah, I think it was very insightful what David shared with us, also Nikolai, and perhaps just to, before we close down and we just go to the Q&A, maybe a few key takeaways. We know Joule is here to stay. We know it's not just a tool for HR. As David said, it's becoming embedded across all the business processes to support a smarter and faster decision making. I don't think AI is no longer optional. I think it's now playing a very central role in how your organization operates and helping drive that efficiency and productivity and get the better outcomes. I do think getting started is key. It's just simple to get started, and the AI journey is not the same for all of the organizations. So basically what matters is that you identify where you want to begin. And as Nikolai said, for that, you don't have to do it alone. We at Gavdi can support you on that journey, on every step of the way, from the strategy and the enablement, and also to the continuous improvement of AI or SAP Joule. Thank you again for joining us. I'm sure there will be some questions on the chat box, and we look forward to partnering with you.
Thank you, Barbara. David, key takeaways, if you were to summarize maybe on what you've seen?
Well, for me, the key takeaway is you need to be deliberate when it comes to artificial intelligence, deliberate about what it is that you want to accomplish. And if you want to accomplish something at scale, the conversation starts and ends with data, how you treat said data, how you embed said data into your models, and how those models are then integrated tightly into your business processes so you can create better and more trustworthy data for the future. And that's That's SAP's response to the AI conundrum of how do you stop AI from just doing anything and then start to get it to do the things that you actually want to accomplish.
Thank you, David. Just going to spend the last few minutes. I've got a few questions here that I will ask you, David. This is a good question. This is actually from Michael. Thank you for the question, Michael. David, can businesses build their own custom Joule agents to be tailored to their needs?
Yeah, absolutely. So Joule Studio, which I think was on two of the slides, one where I showed how the different puzzle pieces work together, and the other related to the AI operating system we announced at Sapphire. But Joule Studio is where you have this no-code canvas. It resides on the SAP Business Technology Platform, and this is where business owners can then drag and drop skills. You can define guardrails. You can instantly test your agents on live data. You can do that through pro code, or you can do it through low code or no code, depending on who the audience is. So essentially, if you can model a process in Signavio, you can summon an agent there to automate it.
Thank you, David. Another question. This one question is from Lars. Thanks for the question, Lars. What differentiates Joule agents from standard automation scripts or single skills?
Well, that's a great question, because it's a very relevant question, one we get very often. Why shouldn't I just do this myself? There are probably many different responses to this. Number one, hard-coded standard scripts typically fit one task, which means that if your data changes or your processes change, they become very brittle. Joule is goal-oriented. It's using reasoning, namely your reasoning, your business logic, your business rules, your business semantics to choose the best path at runtime. So that's probably one of the major differentiators. If you believe that your data, your processes are going to change in the future, then with a technology moving as quickly as artificial intelligence, you are building a single standard script at your own peril, in my opinion, for the critical business processes that need to scale and that truly matter. Related to that, Joule does not operate in a single silo. So we see with a lot of these custom GPTs that have been built, they work, for example, for finance or for CX. But Joule works from anything from the individual query related to, by the way, why is my paycheck the way that it is? Why is my salary deduction so high this month? Works from anything from that towards, I have this critical problem in my supply chain, a vendor that was supposed to deliver an integral product delivered a faulty product. I need a new RFQ issued. I need a new vendor in place. And how do I accomplish all of that in a matter of moments? Those are some of the two of the key differentiators here. And then perhaps finally, related to the data bit, if you're building this standard, you need curated input. You need yourself to sit and curate said input to feed it into the model, whereas Joule is able to tap BDC and tap knowledge graph so that it sees master data, it sees transactions and relationships out of the data to drive intelligent automation on your behalf.
Comprehensive answer. Thank you, David. Another question, this is a good question actually from Jonas. Thanks for the question, Jonas. Jonas is asking, in regards to knowledge graph and business data cloud, how do they enhance, I suppose, trust and reliability in AI decisions?
Well, they enhance the trust and the reliability in that they establish a single source of truth. And if you kind of think about it, the lack of a single source of truth is the root cause of bureaucracy in many organizations. That's why bureaucracy exists, because we try to establish truth and trust between the different silos of our organization through cadences, through meetings, through documentations, through agreed protocols that don't actually create anything valuable other than red tape and some facsimile of trust. But it's much better to have that single source of truth in place, and that semantic context in place, so that you have a knowledge graph that's linking the name of a specific customer to what their invoices look like, what are their service tickets, understanding what are those relationships as they map out your enterprise, rather than guessing or hallucinating to get to a statistically probable relationship between those different edges of the nodes in your business universe, as to my example of the nodes and the edges of the nodes between your data. And then I think perhaps finally, when we're talking about guardrails and ethics, this is an area that SAP is very much leaning into. So there's a company out there called the World Benchmarking Alliance. They surveyed 250 enterprise companies, enterprise software companies, to look at how they work with AI in ethical terms and in security safety terms. And there are just 6 of those 250 companies that work across all defined parameters with AI in ethics and security. And we're proud to be one of them in SAP. We're also proud that we will be the first enterprise software company in the world this summer to pass the new ISO certification for AI governance and AI security. And that's an area we're very much leaning into in order to provide that trust and accuracy to our customers.
Thank you, David. I'm just mindful of the time. One last question, and this one is from Christoph. From an enterprise, and again, Christoph, thank you for the question. From an enterprise perspective, David, where can employees expect to see most value? Is it in HR service line, or is it in regards to logistics, or in your value, or in your experience? And sorry, it's quite a long-winded question. Where is the most value to be attained if starting out on an AI journey?
That is a wonderful question, and it's individual for each customer, but it's a question they need to ask themselves, because I always encourage customers, go with the quick wins. When you're looking at your SAP portfolio of solutions, go with the quick wins where you can start to use the embedded capabilities, the embedded agents, and drive automation to very quickly deliver value. Then use that value to fund the next part of your transformation, which has to do with some of the more long-term attainable goals, more difficult to measure in immediate payoff goals, but that are needed and necessary to succeed long-term. Could be something like master data governance, where we also support through Joule, but arguably the length from activation towards value for master data governance is longer than it is for setting goals for your employees and saving them 10 minutes per employee in goal setting whenever they do that. So it's individual for each customer, but it's a very welcome question that customers need to consider when they start to work with this, and then approach that value holistically across all business processes.
Great. And that's it. I'll give you a breather, David. And listen, just I suppose from as we start to wrap up, I mean, firstly, I'd like to thank everyone who's taken the time out this morning. I have no doubt you found it valuable and insightful, as I did. As Barbara said, the topic with AI, it's not going away. I think it's something that we can expect to hear a lot more about as the technology improves and advances. Just from my perspective, a massive thank you to David and Ottar, who's in the background, who's been answering questions as well diligently throughout. If you are interested in learning more, please feel free to, I'm sure David won't mind me saying this, but please feel free to reach out to David, Nikolai, or Barbara. They're all subject matters in this. And on that note, David, I might just pass it back to you if you wouldn't mind, maybe just for final word.
Well, I started off asking the question, what does AI mean to you? And showed a multitude of the different responses that I've received when asking that question continuously. And I hope I have provided you with a better understanding of what AI should mean at an enterprise level. when we are talking about artificial intelligence, so that we start to move beyond the buzzwords and towards the actual scalable value that drives enterprise adoption and not just enterprise hype. So with that, thank you very much for your time, for listening in, and thank you so much to Gavdi Group for the honor of presenting.
Our pleasure. From a Gavdi perspective, Mr. Yanning, anything you'd like to add?
Thank you to all joining. Very interesting topic this, and thank you to you, David, for teaming up on this one. And feel free to reach out to one of us if you'd like to hear more, know more on how to get started.
One last note from us, I suppose, again, keeping it very Danish central. We're really pleased to announce details of a payroll session that we're doing. We're going to do it virtually and in-house, very much around, again, keeping it in regards to SAP, Employee Central Payroll, but we'll also talk, I suppose, about more of the Danish bespoke elements to payroll. If you're interested in attending that, we would love to meet you either virtually or on site. And on that note, again, just from me, final thank you to everyone for attending, and look forward to seeing you on the next session, and I hope you all have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.